in the process of doing a little prayer book at the moment. And so in the process of gathering together prayers from many, many different traditions that might be said, that I've been saying morning and evening myself. So I've just selected a few for you. So for Monday, for instance, many of you will know I normally start my morning prayer with a tradition that I learned from the Benedictine monastery here beside me here, where I lived for 16 years. And every morning I would gather there with the monks. And the very first thing that they do is they bless their lips with the sign of the cross as they sing, Lord, open my lips, and my mouth shall declare your praise. So maybe you might try that with me. I'll sing it first and you can sing it after me. They would sing it normally 3 times. We'll do that. Lord, open my lips, and my mouth shall declare your praise.
Lord, open
my lips, and my mouth shall declare your praise. Second time. Lord, open my lips, and my mouth shall declare your praise. And the last time. Lord, open my lips, and my mouth shall declare your praise. So this is a prayer. May I be a guard for those who need protection. May I be a guide for those on the path, a boat, a raft, a bridge for those who wish to cross the flood. May I be a lamp in the darkness, a resting place for the weary, a healing medicine for all who are sick, a vase of plenty, a tree of miracles, and for the boundless multitudes of living beings, may I bring sustenance and awakening, enduring like the earth and the sky, until all beings are freed from sorrow and all are awakened. A little scripture reading from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 6. He said to them, come away with me to a deserted place by yourselves and rest a while. So I've chosen our Monday, I choose always for every Monday, Psalm 138, 139. It's called The Hound of Heaven, but it's very beautiful. So maybe we'll sing this together. And so I'll sing a line and then you'll sing it after me when I give you the little nod there. Oh Lord, you search me and you know me.
Oh Lord, you search me and you know me.
You know my resting and my rising. You know
my resting and my rising.
You mark when I walk or lie down.
You mark when I walk or lie down.
All my ways lie open before you.
All my ways lie open before you.
If I take the wings of the dawn,
if I take the wings of the dawn,
and dwell at the sea's furthest end.
and dwell at the sea's furthest end.
Even there your hand would lead me.
Even there your hand would lead me.
Your right hand would hold me fast.
Your right hand would hold me fast.
For it was you who created my being.
For it was you who created my being.
Knit me together in my mother's womb.
Knit me together in my mother's womb.
I thank you for the wonder of my being.
I thank you for the wonder of my being.
For the wonder of all your creation.
For the wonder of all your creation.
Now I thought we might just have a little moment or two of silence, because we are we've been forced to enter a realm of silence and isolation. So maybe to bring ourselves together for this privileged time that we have together, we might just have a moment to breathe, to rid ourselves of our little worries. Not that that's ever possible entirely to do, as we know, but to bring ourselves into the energy of the 90 of us here, to join together in our common story, in our common good. As Seamus Heaney says, if we winter this one out, if we winter this one out, we can summer anywhere. So let us bring ourselves in just for silence now. Oh, great Spirit, help me always to speak the truth quietly, to listen with an open mind when others speak, and to remember the peace that may be found in silence. That's a Cherokee prayer. And in that silence, Imeall, I was just thinking of what you were saying about dormancy, which I hadn't heard you speak about before, and hibernation. And I was thinking dormant. That's also the root of the word for dormitory. And we are really forming a dormitory of like-minded people, seekers and searchers at this time. We're in this dormitory together. I was brought up in, I spent 6 years, so did the lads actually, in boarding school. And we had these terrible dormitories. I'm talking about, of course, 70 years ago nearly, well, 60 years ago, and we had these terrible dormitories, but I'm thinking now of different dormitories, that we all have our own little hearth and little centre that we're speaking to one another from. And so, as Owen then too said, you know, we've put a lot of thought and work into this, but we're also going very much with the flow too. And as McCool, we thought we'd start with some Celtic spirituality today. Just throw out some thoughts that we had and our own experience of it. But I was thinking of Fionn McCool, who's one of our great warriors. He was one time asked by his band of warriors, na Fianna, and they came along to him and they said, Fionn, we've a question for you. We're curious. What is your favourite music? Is it the wind through the trees, the song of the birds, the roar of the ocean? What music is it? And Fionn thought for a while. He said, I'll tell you. He said, it's the music of what happens. The music of what happens. So really that will sort of be a little theme for us too as we go through the week. Lovely, lovely. So I'll go out of this little prayer here and go back to my screen again now.
It was said that if a day ever went by without saying the name of Fionn McCool, that would be the end of the world. So we're good for today now.
That's lovely, yeah. So we thought we'd talk about Celtic spirituality, which is, you know, it's how did the Celts connect with the divine? And of course, when we're talking about the divine, we're talking about, as a friend of ours says here in the monastery, there are 7.5 billion people on the planet, and we'll all have a different name for that. You know, as the Sufi saying says, which I love to quote, and that is, listen to the breath of God. Listen to Muhammad, to Buddha, to Jesus, to Krishna. But don't get caught up in the names. Listen beyond the names. Listen beyond the names. Listen to the breath of God, which is everywhere, which is everywhere. And so appropriate, really. People often ask me, they say, who are the Celts? So I'll try to address that one first. The Celts, they were known by the Greeks as Keltoi. That's where the word Celt comes from. And these were a group of people who, 1000 BC, before the Christian era, all gathered in Europe. And they were called Indo-European because they came from India and the steppes of Russia. And so they gathered here, these Indo-Europeans, in Europe, all over Europe. And then a radical bunch of them broke away and decided they wanted to go on their own and that they were kind of superior to the rest. And these were the Celts. And so they came to sort of central Germany, to where also other places, Gaul and so on. And they set up their own culture. Now, they were around central Germany, a place called Hallstatt, actually. They formed around there. And they landed on their feet, quite literally, because a salt mine. There were salt mines. It was very rich in salt. And I'll talk about salt again over the week, actually, because it's coming into my life a little bit. So everybody wanted salt, of course, for purification and for agriculture and so on. So they were millionaires. So it was like owning an oil well at that time, you know. And so they made a lot of money. And then they came to Ireland about 500 BC, before the Christian era. They started moving out into England and to Ireland. What do we know about them? Very colourful information about them. They were tall, they were blonde and red-haired. They all wore long hair, both men and women. Men would wear trousers and a tunic, and women wore tunics too, and broths, these cloaks with brooches. They'd be tied together with these very fashionable brooches. They were also, two things about them that was very, very strong. And one was that they were people of the land. So they were fishermen, and also obviously too, fishermen and farmers. Now they were also very much given to fighting. They were great concepts around leachas, which is the Irish word for a warrior. And so they were great at battle. They loved fighting, but they weren't great at organisation. And some people would say that we as Celts are still not great at organisation. But so we've lots of things. So even though they go tearing into battle, sometimes drunk, and sometimes naked. And even though they go tearing into battle, they weren't very often organised. And actually this comes right down to a song that we have from 1798, a song around the Battle of Slievenamon, over here in Tipperary. Slievenamon, the mountain of the women, 1798. And so in the Irish it says, Níor tháinig or major I dúis a lé hoing, sníor ámar I géine I górna I gart. So our major, we all went into battle, but our major never turned up. He didn't show up that day.
No.
So of course we weren't Igor or Igart. We weren't anyway right. We were well able to fight, but we weren't. So we were like sheep without a shepherd, or cows without a drover. And of course they were annihilated. Just looking for a lovely little quotation I had actually about the Celts here, and I'd go into, where did I leave it at all? Only any of our Moni, do you want to take over there while I'm looking for this?
I was actually thinking about Celtic battle and dormitories, and we used to have dorm raid. Molly, do you remember dorm raids?
I remember dorm raids. Now, Noreen said that she was in boarding school 60 years ago. Now, many of your parents, maybe your mothers especially, might lie about their age in terms of how old they are. They might say they're a bit younger, But Noreen, our mother, she actually constantly, and has always lied about her age. She's always pretended to be a little bit older than she is.
Yes.
Except until these.
She's not and so yeah, it was a little bit less than 60 years ago that she was in boarding school. But Noreen spoke about Glenstall Abbey there, and Noreen is broadcasting there from right beside Glenstall Abbey, and Glenstall Abbey plays a great part in our family story. And it's a Benedictine monastery that was set up in 1927 in County Limerick. And a few monks from Belgium, I think, came over in 1927 to begin this monastic community, which has grown and continued to grow there. It's very vital and ebullient and learned group of lads up there. And they set up a school in 1937. And myself and Owen, who are 4 years apart in age, were lucky enough to go to this school from the age of 13 years old to the age of 18 years old. And it just happened to be on the grounds, this school, of a castle which was built in the early 1800s. But
1831.
It was built to look like it was built in the Norman times, in the 1100s.
Yeah, it was built in
1130. Mock Norman.
Because, unlike today, people used to build things to make it look like it was 1,000 years old, when actually it wasn't. So it was very stylish to have a very old castle. So it looks pretty epic. And me and Owen were there. And yes, to go back to the dormitory raids was, you'd be trying to go to sleep, maybe you were 13, 14, 15 years old, and it was like 9 p.m. at night. And I literally remember lying in bed going, this is my life now. I'm boarding school, and the ground began to shake. And I was wondering, what was that? Like, why is the ground shaking? Literally, like, Ireland has no earthquakes, for people who are watching from earthquake areas. And the door was kicked open, and a spotlight shone in from the hallway, and about 25 people ran in with shaving foam and toothpaste and and pillows, and started just covering everybody in quite dangerous, but they had spray cans of like cologne, antiperspirant. And people just came in and raided our dormitory in the middle of the night. And I can't say that I just lay there defenseless. I did stand up. I did defend myself. I was very disorganized though.
It was a Celtic reenactment. That's the thing. This was 1798. It was coming through the land. There was nothing we could have done about it. Like, so yeah, that was
but that was Glenstall Abbey. And we're going to keep talking about Glenstall Abbey, I would suspect, for the next 5 days, because a lot of what me and Owen have inherited through our parents was through these extraordinary minds and these avuncular figures that we still are lucky enough to call friends today. These Benedictine monks in County Limerick. So, Noreen, when did you first hear the term Celtic spirituality in your life?
Sure, it would have been, I suppose, through Bonaventure. Now, I would have been, the first time I was aware of, like, the thing about the Celts, of course, is their deep connection to nature, and that in nature they saw God. So this was their spirituality, that God permeated everything. The wind and trees, everything was God's. It was the realm of the gods, And so I remember my mother, I was very young. My mother was a school teacher, so she used to teach us poems and maths and all sorts of things. As a result, we were always top of the class, not because we were any more intelligent than the others, but just because she used to debate it into us. But I remember one time, though, she did teach me this poem, line by line, I nearly remember. And it gave me a huge sense of nature, still does actually. When I look in the sky, I see the twinkling of God's eyes. The rain, and God help us, we've plenty of it here, but I see as the tears of God. And I think really that nature, I think we've inherited that connection with nature. 4 weeks ago, or 5 or 6 weeks ago, Molly will know this, not so much, but we had perpetual rain. There was an extraordinary amount of rain fell in Ireland every day. And I really think it was the elements telling us what was in store for us, that we were going to cry, and the earth was crying. Now these days, we've most beautiful weather. The sun comes streaming in this window, it's faced the east and the west in the evening. And we're being invited by the sun to go out into nature. It is so healing for us when we can't go anywhere else. But we are allowed and encouraged to go out, for 2 kilometers. That's the maximum we can go here. And so I do go, but the invitation is there. And I always remember, lads, too, 2 funerals of 2 geniuses.
Mm-hmm.
One being your father, and the other being John O'Donoghue. And on both those days at their funerals, an extraordinary deluge of rain fell. You remember, Owen, you were with me for that funeral when I, at the invitation of John's family, I sang at his funeral. But it was just the most incredibly rain-filled day. It was almost as if the earth was crying that these 2 geniuses were leaving, and God was smiling above, So I really think we are very much in tune with, of course, over in California, sure, you have sun all the time. But, so here, but I forgot to tell you, I just mentioned that poem that my mother taught me.
Go on, yeah.
It's a poem written by one of our signatories of the 1916 proclamation, Joseph Mary Plunkett. I see his blood upon the rose, and in the stars, the glory of his eyes. His body gleams amid eternal snows. His tears fall from the skies. I see his face in every flower. The thunder and the singing of the birds are but his voice. And carven by his power, rocks are his written words. All pathways by his feet are worn. His strong heart stirs the ever-beating sea. His crown of thorns is every thorn. His cross is every tree. One of the most beautiful expressions of connection with nature, which we've inherited. But just to go back and to finish that little point I was making, actually the Celts, Molly and Imeall and Owen, were the original Weight Watchers.
Right.
Yeah.
They were very conscious of their figure.
They were. And they would go around and they would measure every man's belly.
Go on.
And they'd have a belt. And if you didn't fit within that belt, you had to pay a fine, fat fine.
What?
But they were very conscious of their weight and their appearance indeed. But here's a description of the Celts from a man called Ammianus Marcellinus. He was a 4th century soldier and a Roman historian. And he says, almost all the Celts are of tall stature, fair and ruddy, terrible for their fierceness of their eyes, fond of quarrelling and of overbearing insolence. In fact, a whole band of foreigners will be unable to cope with one of them in a fight. If he call in his wife, stronger than he by far, and with flashing eyes, least of all when she swells her neck and gnashes her teeth, and poising her huge white arms, proceeds to rain punches mingled with kicks, like shots discharged by the twisted cords of a catapult. Isn't that great? Isn't it great? I think it's wonderful.
Oh my God.
So beware of the Celtic women now, lads. Oh, listen, how many of you out there must have Celtic blood in your veins?
Sure.
Honest to God. And certainly if you don't have Celtic blood, you probably have European blood. So you're a Celt anyway. So welcome home. Celts out there, welcome home. And
well, Noreen mentioned that she was brought to Glenstall Abbey when she was a young girl by her mother to see a most extraordinary man who died just a couple of years ago, and a great friend of Noreen's and a great icon of ours. Growing up, he spoke with a very strange affect, and his name was Bonaventure. But he was a priest, knowing a father. Yeah,
he was. Sean O'Dean also, he became, when he wrote the 3 classic books on Celtic spirituality, if you wanted to and I learned so much from him, because we used to do an awful lot of work together. We'd be asked to go and give lectures together, and so he would be doing the Celtic spirituality, I'd be doing the little chants and all of that.
And he was a very interesting looking man, a big shock of white hair, and he would talk like this, lach. He had a very, because he was from, where was he from, Noreen?
Fermoy, County Cork. But the lads in the school, when he used to teach the lads in the school, the lads would call him the Belgian from Fermoy, because
there's this accent. Look, I have a photo of him here. This is kind of how Bones would talk. He talked like that down the back of his throat. And this is the cover of one of the recordings Noreen did with the monks. This is the songbook from that recording from 1980. And they put,
the year you were born, only the
Here I
year
was
you were
you were
born.
born. Owen.
Here I was born now. And then they put this amazing photo of Father Bonaventure on the front of it, and our father used to say he was like Che Guevara.
He was Che Guevara.
And honestly, I was with him hours before he died, and he really didn't change, lads. You know, he was very much retained that shock of hair and so on. He was very gaunt at the end of his life, but he really didn't change. But I miss him an awful lot. I'd miss him every day, and he's been my mentor and comes back to me in dreams too, like so many of our loved ones who visit us in dreams. But and he'd take us to Loch Gore, and only I remember you have great memories of one time he did that.
Yeah, well, it was, yeah. I mean, it was amazing. He was like a druid, a living druid, you know. And we were me and Molly, we were young, like, you know, and Noreen would do stuff with Bones, and there was once, but Bones would bring groups.
So I'm sorry, just to interrupt you there. You'll hear Owen call Bonaventure Bones. Everyone used to call him Bones.
Everyone's called Bones, yeah. And yeah, like his original name was Sean O'Dane, and that's how he published his books. But then in the monastery, they gave him the name Bonaventure, and so all the monks used to call him Bones. And so he'd bring people to Loch Gur, which is this amazing megalithic site. Many of you have been there with us. And there's a huge stone circle, which is actually, if you look at the website for the Dámh Imeall, you will see people walking around stones, and that's a little section of the stone circle there. So I remember once going with Bones, I don't know how old I was, but anyway, I was in the car in the back, and Noreen was driving, and Bones was in the front, and Bones would be talking away, and they'd be talking in Irish. She'd be talking in Irish.
Always spoken Irish. We always spoken
And
Irish.
he'd say, "Now stop here, Noreen, in the shop, stop here." And we went in, and he bought a pack of fire starters, a little pack of fire starters, and then he had a box of matches, and he came out, and we stopped the car at the stone circle, and he pulled out from a little bag the back of a cornflakes box.
Yeah.
And on the back of the cornflakes box, he had drawn the image of what he called an effigy of the Cailleach, which was an image of the witch figure, the
wise one, yes,
sacrificed. And so you had to burn this effigy at this time of year. So he wanted to reenact this ancient pre-Celtic thing, but it was the funniest thing I've ever seen. So it was I'm going to reproduce Bones's Cailleach live on Zoom. And it was so bad. I'm actually going to do it with my left hand, because that will capture the hilarity of it even better.
We can't see. Hold on.
Can you not see it? Hang on.
While Owen is doing that, you know, that affect in Ireland, and instead of saying or, all the or sounds go to the back of the mouth. So instead of saying true, one would say true. That's very true. It's very, very true. So that's from our area as well in County Limerick. And we've often wondered, where did this accent come from, you know, among the farming community there? And actually people think that it was from the Normans. Now, a big group of hardcore colonialist French marauding tribes came to Ireland in the 1100s. That was the people that Glenstall Castle was supposed to look like it was built by. And they spoke French. They were from France, you know, northwest France. And they, of course, they would speak with a French accent. So they think that is a hangover or a delineation from the French takeover of the Normans.
And so Bones bought in the effigy of the witch, and we would burn the Cailleach. So we went into the stone circle. Do you see that?
Hold on. Look, I have my little thing here.
Did you make a Cailleach? Oh,
no, she got the horn of plenty though.
This is now when he died. The monastery gave me this, which was so dear to Bonaventure. Can you see it at all? It's a cow's horn, and that would always have been blown before any ritual. So, Owen, when we go into the stone circle, before we'd light the fire to burn the effigy, we would make the Bones would take out of his little bag. He always carried just a little shopping bag. Actually, I have a photograph of him. And then he'd take this out with great ceremony.
Great ceremony.
And then we'd all be standing around in a circle, about 30 of us maybe. And before you begin any ritual,
yeah, and he would blow the horn. And then he got the fire starters and lit the box in the middle of this 6,000-year-old stone circle, because he could do whatever he wanted. And he lit a little box of, a cardboard box of fire starters, and the flame would pop up. He'd done this before, obviously. And then we all had to process around the flame 3 times. And he would blow the horn each time, Nora.
Yes, he did. You're right, because we do it nearly 9 times, actually, wouldn't we? Yeah, 9 times it's traditionally done.
And I think what was there, and there was a prayer maybe that he would recite.
That's right.
And then he'd take a stick, and you'd have to separate the fire in 2 as well too. That was a thing. You tried to divide fire into 2 fires. Yeah, because this part of the ceremony.
You led the kettle through that for purification. So now we were going to do this, and we walked through it for purification, and you left behind all your little troubles as you were going through that fire. You metaphorically threw them into the ashes.
And then he would take the effigy of the witch, and we had to burn that then symbolically, which was letting go of all of the constrictive sort of things that were holding us back or that had to be let go in our life, and that represented that. And so that was the kind of stuff Noreen used to bring us to when we were growing up.
When we were kids, yeah.
And when he was dying, then he was in a nursing home just nearby here. I used to go to see him every day, and I'd take him a little supper. And then he'd have that, and he loved that. And then one day I came, and he said, do you know now, I'd rather a sup of cider. Irish people love cider. Cider. Well, of course, we'd all speaking Irish. And so on the day he was unconscious for maybe 4 or 5 days in Galway. I had been doing a concert in Galway, and I called into him about 9 o'clock at night.
I think, Noreen, actually, there's a little problem with your voice for some reason. The computer, the microphone isn't working. So, I wonder what we'll do about that. What do you think?
Molly might sing us a song until.
Yeah, go on, Molly. Will you sing us a little song or give us a poem or something? Oh, hang on. Now you're muted, actually, for some reason. Let me see if I can unmute you. One moment. Where are you gone? Where are you gone? I'm surprised there haven't been more of these. Unmute. I'll have to wait a minute. There you go.
There I am. Yes, it's like a technological whack-a-mole. Yeah, maybe the Horn of Plenty there got scared your little laptop, Noreen.
Oh.
Could that have happened? Could it? Yeah.
Who knows?
I think so. I think you're coming back there now, I think. But Lough Gur, some of you have visited with us, and every summer we go to Lough Gur as a family. And recently we would bring people with us, who wanted to see Lough Gur and see that part of Ireland that we're from. And Lough Gur as well, I remember Bonaventure talking about Anya that day, and Anya is the goddess associated with that area of Lough Gur, which is all this beautiful site in Las Vegas of Celtic ritual around this lake, in the apparent rural area of County Limerick, but obviously it's some massive significance at one point. I was thinking that about you talking about communication at the beginning of the day, and if somebody unplugged or it's cut the electricity, then all of this communication would be lost to us, inaccessible. but and it's when you're in Loch Gur and the partnering sites in a 2-mile radius of this lake, so you realize the transience of communication and how much is lost and how easily and inevitable things are lost. And Noreen was actually born in a small house just 1 kilometer away from this lake, and we were always brought there as children. And Anya, the goddess of the valley that we're from, the Golden Vale, is said to live underneath this horseshoe-shaped lake. And it was obviously the site of a lot of wealth and a lot of ritual significance. And also then very much significant in our own family, because Noreen's mother almost lost her life on this lake as well. And it was always very significant that Noreen's mother was a teacher, an elementary school teacher, not a very superstitious woman. But she said that she felt the goddess Anya when she was submerged in the lake, and that she felt very close to death there, actually. So this is a poem called Loch Gur that I wrote to connect our late grandmother, Lal, and the goddess Anya, and ourselves who are still treading the planet. It's called Loch Gur, or Plunged Through. For 'twas 2 lads cutting rushes plunged their sickle through it. The hollow thud of bronze unearthed ceremonial shield and sun sign, offering to the goddess Anya, who lives beneath Loch Gur, watching the surface. And my grandmother conceived by this shore, and my mother was born. But before that, Paddy and Nora skated on the frozen loch, only for Nora to plunge through, pulled up by the hair by my grandfather after she had already given up. Nora maintained that she felt the goddess Anya pulling her down to her depths, an enticing urge. I can feel my grandmother sinking in this lake, letting go of her young love and her future family, and feeling that it could be good to leave this world, confident in her savedness. This prehistoric space, where each undulation is a hoard and treasure lies among the rushes, once a holy offering. Loch Gur beneath Knockany, Loch Gur beneath Knockadoon, that birthed my mother and spared hers. And one of the great finds from that area is a ceremonial shield and sun sign, a big shield, massive. It's in the Irish National Museum right now. It's found on the shores of that lake, and and they think that it would have been offered to the lake, dropped into the lake as an offering to the goddess, and it was found there by chance. And it's definitely a significant place for us.
And actually, Micheál, I'm going to go get your poetry book right now to show people. Oh, yeah. Hang on, I'll be back in a minute.
Grand.
While he's doing that, I'm going to sing you a little song that my mother.
Good, great.
Back to me there as you were saying that here, and this is the song she taught me. Can you still see me here now with my little harmonium?
Yeah, hold on there, Noreen. Before you do, are we still having trouble hearing Noreen there, Owen?
Here, Nora, will you say something for us?
I will. I'm just going to sing a song my mother taught me.
You know what we're going to do? We're just going to try to do something with your audio, if that's okay.
Yeah, you're too quiet, Noreen, for the moment, but I can sing an old tune if you want.
We saw our lovely friends, Cedrin over in Seattle said, "What's a video conference gathering without some technical glitches?" You know.
I know. Yeah, we're still in the infancy of this whole genre, isn't it? Isn't it amazing?
So
as the Jewish phrase says, "Man cross got law." So
what I'm going to do, Nora, we're just going to try something. If you go up to the zoom.us, sorry about this, guys. But there's no point in going ahead unless we have Noreen's microphone working.
Okay.
I mean, you know, if you're going to go blowing horns of plenty, you know, if you're going to go blowing Celtic horns, this is just a technological glitch that goes along. It's all rock and roll.
So
what do I go? Zoom US, yeah.
Zoom US and go down to preferences.
Yeah.
And then go to audio.
Yeah, I have it.
And then click on the test mic button beside microphone.
Test mic, okay, good. Recording 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay, and then you'll see the there's a little checked box automatically adjust microphone settings. Unclick that, uncheck that box.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's gone now.
And then can you turn the little volume thing up full? Is it up full? The little volume thing, it says input volume.
No, I'm up full now, I think.
You're up.
Oh no, I can put that up now. Because it's only up one level.
Turn it up.
No.
Yes, hello.
There
now.
you go.
There you
have
are.
you back. That's perfect.
Okay.
The
well,
horn of plenty blew the circuit.
Horn of Plenty blew the circuit. It did. The Horn of Plenty was
really?
Bones lives again.
Hey, don't
Yeah.
I always take that very seriously, that Horn of Plenty. It's a powerful thing, like.
It is. Yeah. So before your little song, Molly, I'll sing my mother's song because it's in my mind now that it, can you see me, I wonder?
We can and hear you perfectly, actually. So
because I just moved now to my little Harry harmonium. Look, I'm just going to play this little harmonium here.
Beautiful.
Harry. And this is the sound my mother taught me. She used to sing it first herself. And then, of course, from hearing her, but I suppose not really taught me, actually. I suppose I picked it up by osmosis, you know, just as you do from hearing things over and over again. If I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or song, if I can show somebody who is traveling wrong, then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain. If I can help somebody as I pass along, then my living shall not be in vain. If I can do my duty as a Christian, if I can bring back beauty to a world abroad, if I can spread love's message as the Master taught, then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain. If I can help somebody as I pass along, then my living shall not be in vain. My living shall
Bravo, Noreen.
I haven't sung it for years, but yeah, it came back to me there while you were speaking, Mole.
It's very beautiful. Yeah, it's very beautiful. Well, there's no way I'm going to sing after that, Noreen. There's absolutely no chance.
Actually, her other favourite was.
Go on. Which? What are you talking about? No, Lol's favourite was Scarlet Ribbons.
Scarlet Ribbons, no?
Yeah, and
I don't know what you're doing. This is not the time. What? Just tell me.
About a lad called Donal.
Oh, Donal. Oh.
No.
Oh, the other one. Yeah. That was great among their generation, you see. And then our generation threw that baby out with the bathwater, but it's an unbelievable song. Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. The summer's gone and all the flowers are dying. 'Tis you, must go and I must bide. But come you back when summer's in the meadow and all the valleys hushed and white with snow. 'Tis I'll be here in sunshine or in shadow. Oh, Danny boy, I love you so. And when you come and all the flowers are dying and I am dead, as dead I well may be, you'll come and find the place where I am lying and kneel and say an Ave there for me. And I will hear those soft you tread above me, and all my grave will warm and sweeter be. And then you'll kneel and you'll whisper that you love me. Oh, Danny boy, I love you so.
Lovely.
Lovely.
For your mother, Noreen. That's
Very
lovely.
nice.
That's lovely.
Very
yeah.
Nice. And when we were talking about this yesterday, and talking about bones, and we never knew that it was your mother that was Nora who took you when you were very young to a
very young, yeah.
In Glen
he'd run these lectures on a Sunday afternoon, and of course we are by the monastery, and so Mother used to bring me. I don't remember that I was riveted at the time. Let me tell you. I was bored to tears, but because at this man going around was just three of this road. But then I remember when I started when I brought Mick, your father, home. The first time was at Easter that he came home to meet my parents. And I took him over to Glenstal, and Bonaventure was the first monk that I introduced him to, actually. And then it was a huge privilege then when he died there. He died 6 months before Imeall. And so the monks said, would we do some music at his funeral, which was great, actually, because normally these monastic funerals are very formal and all monks will chant and all that. So he said, the chanter here, Father Senan said, would you do that? Because Bones was very close to you. The first thing that happened actually was I went up to the wake. You see, they brought him from the nursing home to the reception in the monastery. And so we were all there waking. And then what they do is they walk from the reception, which is about maybe 100 yards up to the church. And everybody walks in procession.
Yeah.
The coffin goes first. And then the monks are chanting all the time, all these chants of procession up for a funeral. And then into the church. And when we went into the church, the chanter said to me, look, you take over from here. So I actually led him right into the church. I'd kind of forgotten that, actually.
Wow.
It was very beautiful. So I sang him up into all sorts of stuff that he'd love to have heard, like hymns to Bridget. Bridget, oh, Breed. He was very close to Bridget. And so I was singing, Gawe Mart Breda, Infanil le Hero, Infan le Gatiri, Malamishka. I thought he used to love hearing me sing. And he'd always ask for that. So that was moving. So the following day, then they asked Imeall and myself if we would do the music for the communion while they were standing while the monks were all standing beside the coffin. And so Senan said, well, now it won't go on long, sure it won't. And I said, no, I'll sing a little hymn first. And then Imeall will play the whistle. And but Imeall went into a trance. And I suppose he kept going for maybe 15 minutes, maybe, playing the whistle. And they were all waiting there to move the coffin out of the church. But he was dead right. He was dead right, because that's what Bones would have loved. You know,
Yeah.
he would have loved it.
I thought it was just really interesting. I never knew that was your mother who
Yeah, it was many. Yeah.
him. I mean, she must have really valued what he was presenting and what she wanted to bring you, her daughter, to see him present about this Celtic pre-Celtic stuff. Yeah.
Because
And
he
then-
wouldn't have been very Catholic. Like, that stuff was almost dangerous for a
That was
Catholic
kind of
monk to
pagan
be preaching.
in the
Exactly.
50s. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. It was really. And then he started visiting our house, actually. And you see, my mother was a great smoker. The fags, I shouldn't be using that word, should I? The cigarettes were always, the cigarettes were always in her mouth. And of course, Bonaventure was a huge smoker.
Oh,
Until,
yeah.
right up to
I
late.
remember that.
And all his hair would be yellow with from the smoke. So he'd visit our home, and my mother loved to see him coming. She was very fun. Well, he was a lovely man. He was a contemporary saint. Honest to God, he was the nicest man. He never had anything bad to say about anybody. You know, he just. I remember one time we were traveling, himself and myself, to do a television program for the Irish-speaking television, the Irish-speaking channel here. And we were going up past Connemara, because that's where the recording studios are. And so he turned to me, because you never knew how his mind was working. An amazing, beautiful man. And then he turned to me and he said, Lauren, I have a question for you. Why is it that Connemara women are so big? They're enormous. So I'd never known. I mean, this was just madness now, pure madness. So I said, Sean, I don't know, you see. And he was this all serious now. And so he said, well, Tosgon, I know, Tosgon, I know. So I said, really? I said, yeah. You see, he said, they become, you see, Connemara, of course, is full of rocks. You see, they become like the rocks. They become like the rocks that they're all living beside. And this is very serious. So I said, oh, yeah, okay. They do, Sean. Anava. And then another time he was telling me about these Protestants. He said, West Cork, full of Protestants. Just full of Protestants. Do you know that? And I said, no, I didn't know. He said, there. And you know, there's a story told about him. That one time that two men were having a chat on the road. And they got out of their cars and they were having a big, long chat on the road. And then a car came along and started, after about 10 minutes, started beeping like and saying, listen, I need to pass by, you see. So one of the men went over to the car door and he said, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Are you a Protestant or what? Never told you that story.
No.
No, That's and you know, we just we love Protestants, really, we do.
Beautiful man, though. Just really beautiful.
He wrote. Another thing is everything we talk about here we will put up online as well too, with the little password for you all to access in the future. So these videos will be available online, along with the references and some of the poems that we reference as well too, and the places that we reference. So I have 2 of Bones's books here. One is called In Search of Awesome Mysteries,
and that is a classic. That is the classic.
In Search of the Awesome Mystery. Yeah.
And he was very, very proud of that, actually.
Yeah.
And then this one was called Where Three Streams
Meet. Yeah.
Celtic Spirituality. And what's the third one, Nora?
Bridget.
On Bridget, just
on Bridget. Yeah, he did his thesis. His doctorate was actually on Bridget.
I have that, yeah. But I'm going to read a little paragraph.
Please, do.
From this about Loch Gur and before that, did I show everyone this?
Oh no, you didn't. That is hot press, ladies, gentlemen, and whoever else is out there. That is called my first collection of poetry. It's entitled Early Music, and it's 39 or 40 poems, and it is almost available. Amazon will be stocked up soon, and it is printed up by the headquarters and publishing house of David White, who's a great old friend of Noreen's, and that's how we came across David White about 12 years ago, or longer when we were kids, but when we sang for him about 12 years ago. And David offered to print it up, so we got on the Many Rivers bandwagon, and that is 40 poems by myself. So now the Many Rivers office are working from home. They're also in isolation in Seattle. So there's boxes of my books at their office.
Yeah,
when they begin working again. When they begin working.
Yeah.
We can't, well, like Owen's got 2 boxes in America, but and there's some on the way to Ireland, but the Amazon will be stocked and it will be available very soon, and you'll be plagued, as they say. And
it was designed by his beautiful Namo, his fiance.
My fiance did a rendering of the Loch Gur shield, which is
you see that? That's her own.
That's hers with charcoal and colouring pencil, and it's got 7 rings in it and 7 circles around an inner circle, and that is what was found in the lake in Loch Gur, and that is the artifact I spoke of in my poem earlier. And that, I suppose, became the flagship poem of the collection, because really it spoke about what me and Owen have inherited from David White and also from Noreen, and that story about your mother, Noreen, and really and only yesterday, it's all meant to be, I suppose, it's only yesterday that we realized that she was taking you to these Celtic spirituality workshops when you were a kid, and that I thought she was not very superstitious or imaginative in the Celtic spiritualities, but that she was a pragmatist and a school teacher. But obviously she did have a Celtic spiritual imagination if she was, and she was hungry for some sort of deeper narrative around. I mean, she was a very proud Catholic, of course, but
I found that very interesting. That I had thought too that your mother was not interested in this ancient wisdom, but the fact that she brought you to see Bones's lecture, and I just got more of a sense that she was passing this on to you almost against herself. She couldn't help but sort of pass it on to you.
I wouldn't overemphasize it, really, because, I mean, remember, she was a school teacher, and so she had a certain standing in the community, because it's quite unusual now for a woman of that generation in Ireland to be a teacher, And so mother was a bit of a snob too, and so she would have liked the monastery connection. So there was a lot of things there, but yeah, but go on, read us your little bit there now.
But this was there's a great story in Lochgar. So Lochgar has been a ritual site for 6,000 years. So there's culture upon culture upon culture, all layered upon each other. And so you don't know what you're looking at when you see a stone circle or a mound or a little man-made island in the middle of the lake. All of these little sites were from different eras and epochs in Ireland. But one great figure from the area was a man who was called Garrod Iarla mac Geralt. Garrod Iarla mac Geralt. And Garrod Iarla mac Geralt was a medieval Norman. He was one of these Norman knights, but highly Gaelicized, very Celticized. So they said about the Normans when they came to Ireland that some of them became more Irish than the Irish themselves. So they fully integrated. They went totally native and became great heroes in Irish culture. And so this man, Garrod mac Iarla, slipped into the mythology of Ireland. And when we'd go to Lochgar with Bones, he would always reference Garrod mac Iarla. And so I'm just going to read you 2 paragraphs of a story of Garrod mac Iarla. And I'll show you here too. It's a great example of Bones's extraordinary ecumenical mind, that he was able to take this huge expansive history from the prehistoric to the medieval without dropping a beat, you know. And keep in mind, he's a Benedictine Roman Catholic monk as well too. So he said, here the local people tell of the great medieval, highly Gaelicized Norman knight Garrod mac Iarla, associated with the goddess Anya of Lochgar, and her nearby sacred hill of Knockany. According to the tale, which in its way breathes the mysterious, awesome spirit of the earlier days of this area, Garrod Iarla and his wife were one night sitting in front of a blazing fire in their castle in West Limerick. He was renowned for his gift of poetry and magical ability. And to pass the time, his wife asked him to show her some magical tricks. He agreed on the condition that whatever happened, she would on no account scream. She agreed, and Garrod Iarla turned himself into a bird, which flew around the room. At this point, the cat, sleeping by the fireside, woke up and sprang at the bird. The woman screamed, and the gash, or the magical prohibition, had been broken, and Garrod Iarla could not turn himself back into a man again. He flew out the window of the castle and made for Lochgar. Here he met the goddess Anya. She turned him back into a man again and gathered some Norman knights to keep him company. She consigned them all to a castle underneath an island on the lake, still known as Garrod Island. There they live on in an enchanted sleep until Law na Canuna, the day of destiny. When that day comes, at the sound of the horn, Garrod Iarla and his knights will arise from their enchanted sleep and set Ireland free. And then quickly he says, this is Celtic eschatology, the dream of a small oppressed community for the return of their hero to a destined time to break their bondage. This idea of the last days was well known even in the early Christian churches. And to this day in Mass, we say Christ has died, Christ is risen, Christ will come again. And a similar tale is told of the great King Arthur in the Arthurian legends in England too. So you'll see there the extraordinary place that Lochgar has in the imagination, and also how Bones is just able to, in a paragraph, link it to our contemporary Roman Catholic Mass and Arthurian legend as well too.
Exactly, yeah. Wonderful. Now we're getting near your time of expression yourselves. So only how are you going to manage that? Or what?
Well, if anyone there has a question, the thing to do, there's a little chat bubble right here. If you want to click on that.
Chat icon, yeah, down in the bottom tool.
You can type a message in. And if anyone wants to type in a message and just I've seen some beautiful comments here. I haven't fully focused in on them, but there's some beautiful things people are saying.
Lovely.
And yeah, we'll read everything tonight. But if you want to just write anything in there now to share or to ask a question, and I'll keep an eye on it and field some of the questions. And if we don't get to it, we will later this evening.
Lovely.
So feel free to share.
Yes, and while you're doing that, I have a little Dámh, a little blessing here from the Irish tradition. It's a beautiful little blessing for our homes. And I thought it was collected in 1928, so it's quite a very old little blessing, Dámh it's called. So I'll say it first in Irish. Gymeni dia antach seo, on a von go dia vor. Gymeni sé gach fordaras, gach cloch is gach tlor. Gymeni sé an tailach, on board a lagtar bia. Gymeni sé gach siomre, I gord sav cholle na hihe. Gymeni sé an doras, a osglomid gafiel, dan stroncheres dan vochtan. Coma in our wheel. Gymeni sé na fwyn yoga, a ligan doing les, o hollis na grip, no gali is no rails. Gymeni sé na frache in order, oshkion, is fos gach bala dengen, a ta in our dimpel in youth. Gavana shiachan, da rare shin, dan our gorsen kion is gro. Gymeni dia, an vuder shakun, agus chmad o veil. Is gastura shishin, illa, gudi a rifru fain. So I'll translate now. May God bless your house from the top to the bottom. May He bless every lintel, every stone, and every beam. May He bless your family, the table on which you lay out your food. May He bless every room that you have, Igor Sovkal, that you have for sound sleep at night. May He bless your bedrooms. May He bless the door that you open to welcome the stranger and the poor person, as well as your family. May He bless the windows that let in the light from the light of the bright sun, the moons, and the stars. May peace pervade for your neighbors, those that you love and those that you admire. May God bless your charge. May He keep them safe and keep them from evil. And eventually, may God direct us all. May He direct us all to the hearth of His own heart.
Beautiful.
Lovely.
Beautiful.
So yeah, we will be sharing somehow. I've yet to fully work out. I think it'll be on our Trust on Him website that we'll be able to store all this with things like the Cherokee prayer you mentioned this morning, Nor. Let me see what else are people saying. Diane Bush says, I would love a document referencing for all the books, prayers, etc. for each session. Yeah, so we're going to do that and store them all in one place where you guys will be able to access them forever. And I'm finding, Rosemary says, I'm finding this to be a time of great creativity and ideas. Why might that be? I'll keep reading a few of these, and if anything, just make a note of this and we can respond. individually. Leslie Woodward says, what deeper narrative do you feel about this time of going within and solitude is offering to us? Suzanne and Jan says, we are so grateful for this gift of yourselves. Owen, for your information, your volume is half that of Noreen and Molly's. Okay, we'll see what I can do there. Please share Noreen's readings. Barbara says, Barbara Grandolfo, I want to thank Molly for sharing his poem. 2 friends of mine fell through the ice on a local lake yesterday. She survived and he did not. Oh God, help us. Barbara, that's terrible.
Sorry to hear that, Barbara.
Keeping them in my thoughts and prayers. I have a poem to share with you. Yeah, please share that poem with us. Can you suggest any online resources for studying or learning the Irish language online, says Lucy Geever Connor.
Well, apart from learning the Irish, there's a very good website for translating into Irish called Folklore, FOCLO, Fada, .ie, and that's very reliable and very good for translating. But we were even thinking too, simple little things like teaching you. We'll say our days of the week,
Yeah.
Exactly. So I was saying, so Molly, what's Monday in Irish?
Look, I have this.
Day?
Sure. Day Lowen.
Oh, lovely. Great, Day Lowen, exactly. So that's our name of Monday. So Day Lowen is called after Luna, the Roman god, or indeed our own god, Lud, as well. But we'll say Day Lowen, and Day Mort then is after Mars. And look at, if I was near you, Laura, I'd give you all a little Mars bar. But I wonder, you probably don't have Mars in America, do you? No?
Yeah,
but you might buy
we do have Marses sometimes.
Yeah.
Not as common, not as popular as Twinkies, though.
I see. I've never heard of Twinkies. So that's another. Put that up again, Owen. So Day Mort then is Mars Day. Day is lovely because it also means God, actually. Then we come into 3 of names which were more of the Christian tradition, because you have Day Céad-Aoin. Céad-Aoin means the first Friday, Céad-Aoin, and the first fast. So long ago in Christian, when in Christianity, there would be a mini fast, making uppers in preparation for the big fast on Friday. And so Déardaoin then is the only day that doesn't have day on it, because it's elided into it. So it's Idir Ina. So it's the day in between the 2 Fridays.
Yeah.
So then Hina is your day of fasting too. So again, these 3 would have been very much Christian. Then Saharing, we're back, of course, to the god.
Saturn. Yeah.
Saturn, exactly, Saturn. And then Donach is our day for God's day, Dies Domini, the day of the Lord, So Day Lowen, if you want to say that, put your tongue up to the top of your teeth. Day Lowen. Day
Lowen.
Lowen, exactly. And tomorrow's Day Mort.
And there's also it's that soft D as well there, which I tried to express with the H. So
Good.
It's not day, it's day. Isn't that right, Noreen?
No.
No.
It's day, hard D. Like we'll say,
day,
of course, yes, of course, I'll go back again actually, because my Irish is from here. If this is a bad map, you often know, my Irish is from down here. We learned our Irish from over here on this side, in Waterford. But we'll say, if you go up here to Donegal and Conmary, you would have J, they'd say J Lowen, J Mort, J. So it's a soft J. So you're right, Owen, in fact, in that little research that you did there.
No, but like, say, for example, in English, when we say the word day, we say day.
Right. And that's how you'd say it in Irish. Yeah.
Day, but isn't it slightly softer where you would say?
No, day Lowen, de Mort. Yeah.
Good.
Whereas if you have something like Doris, which is a word. Now that's the soft D, Doris. And dia, but dia is God is a hard D, you know.
Dia. Oh, I see. So,
Yeah.
but there's
And
no
doris.
reference to it in the written language, no?
No,
I thought all D's were kind of that soft.
no, you're like, as I say, Doris.
Okay.
Let me see, Dún and Doris. That would be the soft D again, too. But if
Dún
you,
and Doris. Dún
yeah,
and Doris.
Dún and Doris.
Yeah, but there you just said you just did it there.
Doris. Dún.
You just-
Whereas dia is the other D, you know?
Oh, dia. So
Dia.
day is a hard D.
It is hard D, yeah.
Okay.
But except, as I say, if you go up to Connemara and Donegal, you see, they're the exceptions. They'd say J. They'd say J. Lewis, J. March, Decading, you see? And then, of course, then in our tradition, then two lads, in the Christian tradition, then Dale Lowen. I used to always think that Dale Lowen was never, that, you know, it wasn't a day that was dedicated to any saint, until we met our lovely friend, Brother David Stendhal Rast. And he says that in Austria and Germany, I think, that Monday is dedicated to the Holy Spirit. Tuesday then is dedicated to Saint Anne. I'll talk about her tomorrow. Saint Anne is the mother of Mary. And that's Saint Anne's Day. And so we would have a tradition that we learned when we were little girls, that you'd say your 9 Hail Marys before 12 midday tomorrow. And you would always get a lovely surprise.
Right.
You might win the lotto. Have to buy the ticket for
do that. I saw in the messages there that there was a question from one of our wonderful people, that any assignments, and I wonder, is there something to do? I would recommend looking up the lyrics of Danny Boy and at least reading them through a few times and potentially committing them to memory, and that song actually, because I found it very therapeutic to sing that song. There's a great wisdom in it about the transience of life and about devotion and about memory and about it kind of demands memory. It's very prideful but also very modest song, and very embracing our own mortality. And it's been kind of steamrolled by the diasporic Hollywood celeb treatment, but it's actually a very, very beautiful song. So if you want to learn that song, it's a great old tune. And if you haven't sung in a while, now is a great time to germinate a song for future parties. Although Danny Boy is a song that ends most parties, but it's very beautiful. So as my assignment to all of you, I would recommend you open a tab at the end of this session and look up the words to Danny Boy and maybe learn it, you know.
Pick up on that, Molly, because that's extraordinary that you're saying that. We've never said this before, but it's the most extraordinary melody that I think is, you know, as powerful as the words are, even more powerful, because it's quite extraordinary. It's one of the few songs that starts on Ti, do, re, mi. If you're into that solfege, you know, it starts on T, very unusual. Ti, do, re, mi, da, da, di, da, di, di, dum. And now it's beginning to spread. La, di, da, dum, di, da, da, di. Now you're back again. La, di, da, dum, di, da, di, da, di, di, dum. Da, di, da, 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 dum, di, da, di, da, dum. And now you're up here. La, di, da, da, di, dum, da, di, da, di, dum. La, di, da, da, di, da, da, dum. And you don't think it can get any more ecstatic or orgasmic. And suddenly it goes, la di da do di da di da. Actually, I want to give you a little verse of it in Irish.
Do please, yeah.
Yeah, it's so beautiful in Irish. Is sé chuí gan mis madenéireach a má hin bérum has a vera droig. Is gan an Jon am haringt har na sléite har na farige ga ché manaten mar a vín má bro. Is a ben even artesach na lening, Dari hin sero am a vrint an trail, da vai mar alicha Shing, Ishe Machi. Forgotten the last line. Sorry, I've forgotten the last line. But it's very, very. Yeah, again, I haven't.
That's beautiful. We'll go back to a few other questions.
Go on, yeah.
Let me see. Amba, Gail, and Don are there. Thank you for allowing us. Thank you for transporting us to the spirit of Aaron. Oh, Sheeran, M. Sheeran, Marita says, can the three of you sing a song together?
We'd love to try it, Marita, but I don't know if it's going to work. We've been trying to see, but
we have been trying. Fortunately, it doesn't work. But Owen can share audio tracks on his computer, which are great. Maybe you'll play us out with one of them, Owen, from one of our albums.
That's lovely.
We could do that. You know.
There is a backlog between our locations. But going back on the assignment there, to the question 2, what we were thinking of asking you to do overnight and before tomorrow was to open yourself to your ancestors. You know, we were talking about the Celts there, but to just sit and open yourself for a little period of time, because that's one of the meanings. That was another question, wasn't it? What's the meaning of this time? What is the divine trying to say to us? And of course, it is to reconnect with ourselves, to be forced to leave behind the business, the lives that we already had, to be plucked out of it. Oh, there's a lovely phrase by Anais Nin. She's a writer, wonderful writer, dark writer now, but wonderful, Anais Nin. And so she says, there came a time, or there came a day, when it was more powerful to remain in the bud than it was to risk the pain of blossoming. And so this is our time of being shot out of the bud, being birthed, actually, being shot out of the womb into a whole new life, to blossom again. So we're asking you to maybe do a little assignment, that you'll just sit and listen to what your ancestors are telling you, because the dead are very close to us at the moment. And they're trying to connect with us. And in Ireland, of course, we have very strong beliefs in that our dead are very, very present with us. In our dreams too, of course, as well. So will you try a little assignment? Assignment isn't the right word, but just to open yourself there to the blossoming of the bud within yourself.
That's great. That's really lovely, Noreen. In 6 weeks' time, all of the leaves will be full on the trees, and we will think that it was always like that. But actually, the little buds are appearing here in Ireland. Every day they grow bigger and bigger, and the risk for them is larger and larger. They shall have to burst forth. So it's a great time of year to look at those little buds and think what is emerging in ourselves, of course. And the Celts, of course, were obsessed with nature. And Dia Ilalóhrach, which is a beautiful term we collected from Noreen, which is God in everything. So.
And also, there's a few questions here too. People want to see a photo of your mother, Noreen.
I have it, yeah. Well done, I get it.
There you go.
Good stuff.
That's nice. It would be great to put a face on your recollections of her, says Cedron.
That's lovely. I actually have of my mother and father on their wedding day here in my old book. Look at, there's my mother and father. This is to make me cry now. To show you, yeah, here. Can you see them?
Yeah, hold it
That's
nice
beautiful.
and steady there for a while for us, yeah.
That's your grandmother and your grandfather now, lads.
Lovely. How old was she there?
I suppose about 28. You know, she was quite old. You know, they were, for that time, that they were, you know, and that's a family photograph then of us all there. Can you see us there? That's myself and my sister, my brother and myself, my mother and father. And that was the house we moved from Lochgar. My father designed the house himself, actually. And they sort of started out as a very poor couple. But then my father got quite a good job in business. And my mother, of course, was a teacher. So that is where... Oh, and that's Auntie May whose book you have there.
Oh, yeah.
It's Auntie May, yeah.
The nun. She was, your mother's two sisters became nuns.
Yeah, they were nuns.
When we were talking about bones yesterday, I opened up this book and I never realized, but actually this belonged to Auntie May back in 1980. And I never realized that I had her copy here. Sister Mary Hassett, December 1980. Yeah. But
did your aunts ever mention Celtic spirituality, Noreen? Your aunties?
Not directly, of course, because it was that's quite a new term, really. But they would have been, I think, more connected to it than Ma, really. But certainly they were great. They'd sit around and when the two nuns would come to visit us, and they'd be telling these stories of their pupils and marvellous stories. Let me think. Well, I suppose one about St. Patrick is a good one that my mother used to tell, that around March the 17th, she was preparing her class for St. Patrick. And so St. Patrick's Day was falling on a Saturday. And so she did the whole week on St. Patrick, bringing Christianity to Ireland, banishing the snakes, the shamrock, coming from Wales. He was a sinner, of course, before he was converted, and all of this kind of stuff. And so at the end of the week, on the Friday, she was saying to her 7-year-olds, now, what did you learn about St. Patrick over the week? And they were all saying about the snakes and things. And she noticed one little fellow was very quiet. She said, and Jimmy, now, what did you learn? And a little pause, and he said, well, Benny Ryan, that was her name, Mrs. Ryan, Benny Ryan, that's in Irish. Benny Ryan, St. Patrick came to Ireland, and he met the Irish. And the Irish said to Patrick, will you go to Rome? And will you meet Christy Hannity? And will you ask Christy if he'd like to come to Ireland? Hannity now is, little aside, is a popular name around here. So will you go and meet Christy Hannity, and ask him if he'll come to Ireland? And St. Patrick said he would. And St. Patrick sailed to Rome in a boat. And there he met Christy. And he said to Christy Hannity, will you come to Ireland with me? And Christy said, I will. And Christy and Patrick sailed to Ireland on a boat, and that's how Christy Hannity came to Ireland.
Beautiful. Well,
the truth.
It's so funny, and as most of you know as well, actually, our St. Patrick's Day was cancelled this year due to our enforced germination as well. So, but to go back to the deeper narratives around this time, I think it is that. The permission to allow us to despair together, which is to grieve together, the permission to hope together, to reassess and to germinate, to go into a dormancy of all of us. And of course, being stuck at home brings forth all of the neuroses that are kept at bay by our busyness and our egos and our work and our professional life. And so really it's the deeper narrative is the word of the day for me is germination anyway, and it is one outdoors and indoors. So
yeah, Mary Beth asks, how about giving us some tips for discovering what is trying to blossom? Discovering what is trying to blossom.
Well, I'll tell you.
Come on, Nora.
It's about listening. It's about sitting in the silence and listening. And you will get that intuition, Mary Beth, if you just allow yourself to be open and to be taken like a river, to be carried there along, and to go down into the depths. This is a time for into the depths of pain, because life is hard. Life is hard. And so That's one tip. The other is to go out into nature if you can at all. Pick flowers. I just went out and I picked flowers and daffodils out here and daisies. They don't have to be hyacinths or anything. There's that lovely phrase that I think is it Persian, 13th Persian mystic, who said, I have 2 loaves. I'm going to sell one and buy hyacinths, which are very good for the soul. So to keep ourselves to, and to sing too is a great one. Singing, you know, it's to yourself there and in the solitude, to sing our way through the sorrow, you know, as St. Augustine says, sing and keep walking.
Someone just said smell there as well, which is a beautiful thing to be aware of senses. Yeah, very nice. But to sing when one is alone, to listen to oneself, has a hypnotic effect, and to give ourselves permission to fall in love with the sound of our own voices in private is a very, very powerful thing. So whether you're singing Danny Boy or whatever else, yeah.
And, you know, to, as I say, fall in love with ourselves too, to see the good sides in ourselves and to say a kind word. You know, the Japanese saying that says one kind word will alleviate 3 months of winter. And so that is to fall in love with ourselves. Oscar Wilde said that, of course, when you fall in love with yourself, you have a lifelong love relationship. You know?
And then, so tomorrow, actually, we're thinking of talking about the golden rule.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, which is
you know what that
to
is.
love your neighbor as yourself.
Or to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Yeah.
And yes, of course. So unto you. What would you have done unto you?
Exactly.
So that's really the one of the secrets, isn't it, Nora?
Yes.
What you would have done unto yourself first.
Right. Exactly. Well, there are 2 aspects to it. You see, you have the golden rule. Maybe talk about this tomorrow. But one is do unto others what you would have them do unto you. So that's a message for us at this time to do something for somebody now that you'd like them to do to you. Mm-hmm. The other one is do not do to others what you would not have liked done to you. So what wouldn't you like done to you? Let's not do that. Let's not bitch. Let's not gossip. Let's try hard anyway. You know, what would we not like to have done too? So it's very deep. And remember, I've told you, lads, how many religions in the world?
29,000.
No,
how many?
4,200. And all of them agree. All of them agree on that golden rule. Every single one of them. I can read all of those to you tomorrow. I wouldn't, because it'll take ages. But all of them, the 4,200 religions in the world, agree on it. So there must be some wisdom in that. So again, that's another little piece of a nugget that we can, you know, what would I like done to me at this moment now?
And someone else. Sorry, Molly, go on.
No, just that, like how to don't let yourself be idle, you know, as well.
Exactly. The devil makes works for idle hands.
Yes, yeah. And if it's messages you can send, whatever. We all know 1 or 2 of our own gifts. Of course, we're unaware of most of them, but those gifts that you know you have, use them.
Yes, absolutely.
A couple of people too are mentioning, you know, the great relationship with grief and death and dying too in the Celtic and the Irish tradition, and we'll also be looking at that. We were thinking around Wednesday, actually.
Yeah,
and going a bit deeper there. With the golden rule as well, we were thinking of looking at the Beatitudes, Jesus' first Sermon on the Mount, which also has within it that twofold relationship, you know, that blessed are those who mourn, they will be consoled.
Exactly.
So,
the duality there,
yeah,
wonderful.
There's
and you know, those 8 principles that are in the Beatitudes, they're marvelous, you know, because they're universal, and you know so you don't, you know, you don't have to believe in the Christian tradition, because they're universal, just like the 8 principles of Buddhism too, that we can all take: right intention, right speech, right action, and so on.
Lovely.
So we've so much to learn actually from each other and from all religions. But yes, we'd like, though, to address really sort of the recovering Roman Catholics true among us. I'm including myself there. Because there are such riches that we were brought up with, but that circumstance and history and pain and bullying and abuse, it suppressed them and it hid them from us. It made them secret. But now it's our time to retrieve them and to restore them to our being and to nurture us. And again, that's the message of this time too, isn't it? That we can.
It's a great opportunity for us this week in this hEdge School group. hEdge School is to reclaim things, have another opportunity to reclaim some ideas. And that's part of the inheritance that me and Owen got from yourself, Noreen, and our father, is a great respect for the Catholic side of the Christian liturgy, the mystery of it. And, while we picked it up in our own way, I think we're probably recovering post-Catholics ourselves. But there is so much wisdom, and I have always had a great respect for the liturgy of Catholicism. It's ripe full of stuff. Yeah.
Great stuff. Well,
Even the mystics. Maybe we'll have a chance to talk about that too, the mystics, because Einstein said that on his deathbed. He said, I have one regret, that I didn't read more of the mystics, the Christian mystics.
Someone else asked Noreen, what does your earrings say?
That's lovely. That's lovely. Well done. Can you not see,
Tell us.
Next week's lotto numbers.
No, you can't see. No.
It says love, but it's backwards. Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Imeall.
Well, okay, everyone. Thanks so much. Yeah. So the great thing about this is we have another 4 days of gathering. So
I'm gone.
What?
Gone already. Oh my God.
Jesus,
oh my God.
it is. Oh Jesus, the time is gone. Yeah.
It's 6 p.m. here in Ireland, so we're off to have our dinner. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for joining.
Oh, now hold on. We should leave you with a little prayer too. So you might take your little candle again. Agus nuair éicimid an solas sa. Hamid is smínamh gach aine atá tain, agus atá I driblóid, agus atá I tuairt cabhair de gach aine. As we join our lights together, we think of everybody who is ill, who is dying at the moment. We remember all the carers that are so selfless in looking after people. We're sending all our energies and our love to each other. And as the Irish proverb says, Ní neart go carr le chéile. In unity, there is power. And so you might breathe in now, inhale, and on your exhalation, blow out your little candle for this time and keep it on hold until this time tomorrow. And may you, may we, may the world go safe in the light of the divine. So let's breathe in and out.
And we'll see you all tomorrow. I'm going to send us off with a recording of the Beatitudes that we did with the monks in Glenstall. And we will see you all tomorrow. Thank you all so much. Yeah.
Father, in my name, I am with you. Blessed are the merciful, mercy shall be shown unto them. Blessed are the pure of heart, they shall behold their God. Blessed are those who bring peace, they shall be children of God. Blessed are those who suffer in the cause